from childhood of history. I have copybooks, notebooks, where I used to collect, when I was 13, to collect newspaper excerpts on the black kids in Arkansas that could not go to a mixed school. So I had all these in my book note. And then when the War of Independence of Algeria, I had all these in my notebook. It was extremely interested in international affairs, in international politics from a very young age. And then it was, to me, very, very natural to go and study history. And then when this ambition of, from writing history to participate, not make, but to participate as humbly as one can in the process of history through politics, that was to me a very natural move. Everybody says that the solution to the conflict is very well known. If it is so clear, why we don't have an agreement? Of course, there is always the problem of political will. But then, maybe in order to have an agreement, we have to introduce other assets, additional assets that will draw people to that agreement that everybody knows what it is. What we need here is an international solution. This is such a conflict that either for lack of political will or because of the political systems that are so dysfunctional, the parties themselves want it, but they can't. You need to feel the inconsistencies and the incompatibilities of the parties by bringing in additional players. The Arabs, the Europeans, the Americans, even the Russians. Not leave anybody outside, to create the package of pressure and incentives. In this conflict, everything is small details, and the world does not understand. The world does not understand why these Israelis and Palestinians are talking about one hill, and what, because there is what we don't have. That's the space. I have been engaged in the Arab-Israeli peace, the quest for peace among Arabs and Israelis, since I came back from Oxford in 1974. I did my PhD and I came back, and from that very moment I was extremely active in all kinds of organizations for an Arab-Israeli peace, for an Israeli-Palestinian peace. And then when I went into politics, I was fortunate, to go straight into the negotiations. And I feel that we were very close, and I still am trying to get back to that moment and understand why it was impossible and what should be done in order, again, to make it possible. I feel that I don't want to die before this is done. I think that this is it doesn't matter to me, obviously, not at all, that others will do it. And of course I had then the ambition that I will be the one that will be directly involved. I don't care at all, so long as it is done. And I'm trying to preach why it is important, how perhaps we should correct our past behavior in order to make it possible, so that we can at least leave to our children, something better. Because now to leave to them this conflict alive, this is the failure of a whole generation. We created the problem, we failed in solving it, and we bequeath it to our children. That's a capital sin. So that's why one is driven all the time to deal with it. I think he's an extraordinary man. I think he has put together an organization that transcends the limits of the Italian space. He has made it into something which is multinational, international. And what, as I say to Gilad, what strikes me is that he is very, very Italian, in the sense that he, for example, he doesn't speak English, but his outreach goes everywhere. He is an international man. And this is what strikes in his kind of international vocation, right? I was also impressed by the fact that he has here people from different disciplines, but he can communicate with all of them in their language, in the language of astronomy, in the language of brain studies, in the language of politics, etc., etc. No, he's a very multifaceted man. I mean, he's an extraordinary man. I felt that the public was listening, and frankly, I thought that they were listening. They were a bit stunned, because my sense is that the perspective that I put forward was not exactly the one they expected, and the one that is normally conveyed in this kind of discourses on the Arab-Israeli conflict. The normal way of delivery is one of, okay, we did our best, we failed, the other side is very bad, the terrorism and all this stuff, the Jews are right, the Arabs are wrong, or the other way around. And I thought that I gave to people some material for thought, for thinking, and to see it in a slightly different way. This is the kind of approach that well, people normally do not speak in these parameters. They speak more in the traditional way. So I felt that if there is any meaning for me to participate here, was not by telling people what we did, what we said. That's meaningless. You need to put it in a context, within a framework that can make sense to people, and this is what I have tried to do.